Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Peculiar Pandemic Podcast. We're your hosts of Triple P, Lily and Lexi.
We are super excited to jump into today's episode because our page has been full of comments and questions about what was being served at this year's Thanksgiving dinner.
According to the National Turkey Federation, 88% of Americans eat turkey on Thanksgiving, which is about 46 million turkeys being consumed. And if the average turkey feeds about 6 people, that's 290 million Americans eating turkey. And as you all know, this year has been met with a foul turn of events following Turkey Day.
Joining us today, we have a special guest who is a food expert and can give us some insight on the outbreak of the illness following that dinner that so many Americans look forward to every year. I'd like to introduce you all to Bridget Rennick, a consumer safety officer from the Federal Drug Administration, here to tell you why you should not eat those leftovers.
Hey ladies, thanks so much for having me. I'm a big fan of Triple P. Ooh. I remember when you guys went viral back in 2014 covering that Ebola scare.
Oh yeah.
You know, in my line of work, I don't get a chance to step away and address the public very often. So I'm really excited for this opportunity.
We're really excited to have you.
Yes.
So Bridget, there's been a lot of talk about this outbreak, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, you know, I'm not here to ruffle any feathers, but as professionals, when we were tracking this outbreak, we attribute it to a bacteria that we found in the turkey. The scientists have coined this bacteria the Meliagris dexter.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Well, the term is actually Latin roots for the words turkey and right-handed.
Right-handed?
Yes, this bacteria affects the RH405 gene, which is the same gene that determines right-handedness.
So does this mean the outbreak is only reaching the right-handed population? It's a great news for me, because I'm a lefty.
Well, actually, left-handed people aren't the only population that aren't being affected. Bridget, is it safe for me to assume that vegetarians and vegans can be safe?
I'm so glad you asked, Lexi. Yes, as of right now, the CDC is only attributing this outbreak to those who have consumed turkey firsthand. It does not appear to be transmittable in any other way. So good news to you non-meat eaters out there, you're in the clear.
Thank goodness my grandma brought that ham.
So ladies, let's start with the first reported incident. This is what our listeners are really excited to hear about. Our patient zero was a 28-year-old male in Plymouth, Massachusetts, who had symptoms of fever, stomach cramping, the inability to keep down liquids, and diarrhea. He presented these symptoms within just a few hours of his feast.
Well, as you guys know, these are all common symptoms of many foodborne illnesses. And us in the industry, we encounter and try to prevent these on a daily basis.
I read that by Saturday afternoon, he had died of severe dehydration.
Wow, that's a really short-lived bacteria.
During the FDA's observation of this outbreak, we noticed pretty early on that this illness affected the East Coast first and then seemingly spread to the West Coast. But we know now that it doesn't appear to be transmittable in any other way other than ingestion, so it left us pretty stumped on the timeline.
I'm willing to bet that has something to do with the time zones and when people were sitting down to eat their dinners.
That's a really great point, Lexi. Bridget, I understand that these symptoms are a plucking nightmare.
You know, all jokes aside, Lily, these symptoms are pretty gruesome. Patients are experiencing fever, abdominal pain, cramping, excessive and violent diarrhea and vomiting. And all of these symptoms lead to severe dehydration and kidney failure, and then ultimately death.
With all of these symptoms leading to death, America will have to transition to having a heavily depleted population.
That's so true. According to worldatlas.com, only 10% of the world is left-handed, which will be a majority of the survivors.
You're right. This will greatly affect our workforce, our economy, and so much more. Not to mention the survival will require some accommodations. All of us lefties can agree that we hate 3-ring binders and spiral notebooks for obvious reasons.
Of course. I think that the major manufacturers of items like scissors, desks, and sporting equipment will have to change their practices to accommodate the changing population with the left-handedness in mind.
You guys speak on a world that's a little outside of mine, but you make some great points. But for me, and I speak on the behalf of the FDA, we believe that the food industry will see a rapid decline in the gobbling of those meat products. And this follows the CDC's recommendation to cease all meat consumption until the origin of the bacteria that infected these turkeys is determined. And I would say that it's also safe to expect a financial recession in the agricultural world.
But what you're saying is that we still don't know the origin?
Well, what I can say right now is that we know that the bacteria is found in the turkeys, but how it got there is still a mystery.
I'm kind of winging it at this point, but is there a timeline we can expect to hear some answers?
You know, the FDA, CDC, and USDA are working around the clock and expending all available resources on this public health nightmare. But please understand that we too have lost a great deal of our workforce.
I'm really interested to see in the coming years how our country will come back from this.
The current death toll has been reported that up to 73% of our country's population. So, for those of you that are still out there, please get rid of those leftovers.
We can't lose any more subscribers. So stay healthy and join us next month. Thanks again, Bridget, for joining us today to speak on a peculiar pandemic that is quite literally killing America.